All right, so imagine this. You're in a board meeting, a tense negotiation, right? Everyone's focused on the arguments, the back and forth. But what if I told you the real decisions, the things that actually sway the outcome, happened way before anyone even stepped foot in the room?
That's exactly the kind of scenario that we're going to unpack today. We're taking a deep dive into this idea of anticipating the invisible.
Yeah, and this document, Anticipating the Invisible, is a fascinating look at how hidden dynamics actually shape events. Like, how do you see those things that other people miss?
Well, and this isn't about, having a crystal ball or anything. It's about recognizing that there are these subtle forces at play in almost any situation. The document argues that the most effective leaders, they have this knack for understanding these undercurrents.
Right, so not just reacting to what's right in front of you.
Yeah.
It's about sensing those quiet exchanges, the little indicators, the informal alliances that maybe haven't even fully formed yet.
Exactly. And a key takeaway here is that influence, true influence, is often exercised kind of subtly. The document really highlights that sometimes the power dynamics, they aren't obvious. You have to have this ability to perceive them. Like, think about it. You can have the most brilliant plan in the world, but if you don't understand these underlying forces, now it's too late, well, that plan can fall flat.
So kind of like a high-stakes poker game, then. You have to read the tells.
Yeah. Exactly. Understanding those unstated intentions is at least as important as the cards that you're holding. And the document really stresses that some people, some leaders, just intuitively grasp this. They understand that influence isn't just about their own actions, but it's about the entire web of invisible factors that are at play around them.
That's so interesting. And this brings us to something really crucial for anyone listening, right? How often are we just so focused on what's right there in front of us that we miss those subtle signals? The things that are actually telling us what's going to happen next.
Right. And the document really pushes the idea of learning to detect those movements before they become fixed, before they become obvious to everyone. It's not about brute force. It's about strategic positioning.
It's about understanding the landscape before the battle even begins. And the document actually uses this phrase, operating with a different grid of reading. What does that mean to you?
I think it's about how a leader interprets situations. They're not just looking at the facts, they're looking at everything else that's going on around those facts.
Okay, so much of this seems to be about a shift in perspective. Are you just looking at the obvious decisions? Or are you tuning into those undercurrents, those whispers, those emerging partnerships that, as you said, actually dictate the outcome?
Right. And I think that level of awareness, it probably involves, having a very keen sense of observation, but also cultivating those relationships that give you a glimpse into those unofficial dynamics. You could even say it's like having a sophisticated grasp of humint.
Humint. So that's human intelligence, right?
Exactly. But within a specific environment,
Fascinating. All right. So for everyone listening, let's bring this home. How can you use this idea of anticipating the invisible in your own life, whether you're in a negotiation at work or even just in your personal interactions?
I think taking a step back, it really means understanding that those underlying power structures, those subtle indicators, they can give you a real advantage. It's about being proactive instead of reactive. You don't want to be surprised by an outcome. If you can see where things are going, maybe you can influence them earlier on.
So the core takeaway, it's about recognizing those invisible forces, right? The unspoken dynamics, those early signals. Because, as the document points out, the real game is often played in those unseen exchanges and alliances. And that human intelligence gathering, that plays a big role in understanding those dynamics.
Exactly. And that brings us to a final thought. In your own life, in the situations that you're navigating, what invisible currents might be at work? What are you maybe overlooking? And the document really asks what's more important, the decision you make or the lens through which you're viewing the situation. Being able to see beyond the surface, that's a powerful skill to have.
That's an incredible point to end on. Really makes you think.